We're happy to welcome Pothys back to the Big Pick. So welcome you to Pothys the Big Pick. First up, a film that everyone's talking about. A film that was cheered and applauded loudly in Satyam Theatre where I saw it. Inception, ladies and gentlemen, looks like it will win hands down as the most original movie made in the last couple of years. Who's the director? The supremely clever Christopher Nolan, but of course. The movie is not only fiendishly original, but also staggeringly ambitious. I'll tell you just a little bit of the story, and I'm sure after listening to it for just that wee bit, you'll surely agree with me. The movie begins a bit confusingly though, and it takes you some fierce concentration initially before you get the hang of it. Dom Cobb, Leonardo DiCaprio, is a dream extractor, someone who can slip into people's subconscious and steal information lodged there. And the way he does this is, of course, his target should be asleep or drugged, in other words, and so should he, Cobb, and both people connected by wires. The film begins with him on one such espionage mission, a high-stakes corporate one where it requires Cobb to enter the subconscious of a powerful businessman, Saito, and steal certain secrets of his. Now, Cobb is also a fugitive on the run, a fugitive who can't enter the United States because he's wanted for the alleged murder of his own wife, the gorgeous saucer-eyed Marion Cotillard. And this torments him because not only did he not murder her, but he also has his two children back home who he can't see. It so transpires that Saito, the Japanese businessman, was only auditioning Cobb for a far more riskier and ambitious project. Saito asks Cobb not to steal this time, but to plant an idea in the mind of his biggest business rival, the billionaire Robert Fisher, played by Cillian Murphy. Plant an idea which will mess with Fisher's mind, thereby weakening him and eventually leading to the collapse of his business empire. This is what Saito wants, so he will have international monopoly. In exchange, Saito tells Cobb he will ensure that Cobb gets to return home to his children. Of course, Cobb can't refuse. This is the only thing he wants in life right now, to be able to be with his children, so he agrees and goes about gathering together a team. His right-hand man is Arthur, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, who's superb in the role. Eames, the equally superb Tom Hardy, as a forger and an old hand in all of this. A young architecture student, Adriane, the winsome Ellen Page, and a chemist, Yusuf Dilip Rao, who completes the strong cast. Now, Yusuf makes the drug that enables multiple people to enter into a common dream and also dream within that dream. So the film is about how Cobb and his gang, Saito also joins them, go about accomplishing the mission, that is planting the idea in Fisher's mind. But the film is not as simple as that, because within that plot frame, it examines a whole lot of emotional and ethical issues. It's a dizzyingly exciting film with extraordinary cinematography, great locations, sets and production design, and Hans Zimmer's brilliantly haunting score with its operatic highs, which is almost like a character by itself. The film boasts of a superb cast. I mentioned the talented supporting actors earlier. Now I'd like to sing paeans in praise of Caprio and Ken Watanabe. The former is so versatile. Last week I raved about him in Shutter Island, you remember? This role is so much like the character he played in Shutter Island, so much. A character tormented by the death of his wife and grappling with what's real and what's not, when the line between illusion, delusion and reality begins to fade and merge. Inception sets the bar very high for films to come this year. Very audacious of director Christopher Nolan to make something this complex. Everyone seems to be loving it, despite the fact that you feel like you're walking in a surreal dream through a maze, a complex labyrinth, and your head feels all messed with. Like I said earlier, the theatre was filled with college students and young people, and they all cheered uproariously and clapped thunderously during and at the end of the film. Apparently, Christopher Nolan had been planning this for 8 years before Warner Brothers and Legendary Pictures agreed to fund its making. Now, despite all the CGs and special effects and its cleverness, what impressed me most about Inception is that it has a strong emotional core and you feel a sense of catharsis at the end. What a brilliant achievement. Don't miss this tour de force, which gets 5 stars surely. Stay tuned. Coming up on Pothys The Big Pick, 2 more exciting films. Welcome back to Pothys The Big Pick. 40 minutes. That's all I could take of this film, 40 minutes. And the reason I endured night and day for that long was because of Cameron Diaz, who according to me is one actor who sparkles and dazzles in every movie I've seen her in. But all her effervescence can't hold this mindless movie up beyond a point. So shall we plunge into the plot and of course surface rather quickly, or I will gag. June Haven's Cameron Diaz is magnetically drawn to Roy Miller, Tom Cruise, the instant their paths cross at the airport in Wichita. And lucky for her, because they end up being on the same flight to Boston. But not really lucky for her, as she soon finds out. The plane, by now full of dead men, explodes upon crash landing, and June flees the scene, but not without Roy on her heels, because despite his warnings or threats to her, he knows that she will eventually spill the beans about him to the cops. And June almost does when Roy, bullets flying everywhere, abducts her, and from then on they go country hopping. New York, the Azores, the Swiss Alps, Austria, Germany, Spain and South America to escape the people chasing them. The chasers, as we shall call them, are a bunch of men. Now, are they the FBI or are they the real bad guys who want a certain mysterious thing that Roy has, or is Roy the bad guy? But really, you couldn't be bothered to find out because the film has gotten so tiresome by now. As I said earlier, Diaz dazzles. She's a madcap. She's flaky. She has the most beautiful wide-mouthed smile. Julia Roberts should stop thinking that hers is unequaled. Cruise is charming as ever. Ladies, remember how we used to swoon over him when we first saw him on screen? He was everyone's heartthrob. I had posters of him in Top Gun all over my room as a teenager. Gosh, those were the times. So Cruise has retained that charm from the boyish kind. Now it's a more mature variety. He's as hot as ever and so fiercely fit and athletic as he does all those stunts, leaping, flying, scrambling, somersaulting. But as Roy and June, the characters are just not developed enough. Also, their witty exchanges get drowned out by too much noise, too much action, too many machine guns, too many fast cuts. Pooh. I felt a bit slapped around and I can't take that, this feeling of being shook like a rattle. So what could have been a nice romantic comedy, which is what it is being touted as, so what could have been a nice romantic comedy ends up being a deafening mishmash of things directed by James Mangold. See what I mean? There have been some delightful movies in this genre. Romancing the Stone, what a film that was. And Charade, starring Cary Grant and Audrey Hepburn, these come to mind immediately. Stories where accidental couples embark on an adventure and soon find sparks flying happily between them. But while Romancing the Stone and Charade were wonderful, Night and Day is simply not. I wouldn't bother seeing it if I were you. Not a one-star film, people. You don't want to waste your time watching a one-star film. Stay tuned. Coming up, one of the best feel-good films ever made, Billy Wilder's Sabrina, only on Pothys The Big Pick. Welcome back to Pothys The Big Pick. I read somewhere that if a bottle of great champagne were to become a woman, it would be Audrey Hepburn. Don't you so totally agree? So watching any movie with her in it is like opening a bottle of the bubbly, and Sabrina is no different. This 1954 film directed by Billy Wilder is so delightful that you could watch it a million times and still not tire of it. Sabrina Fairchild, Audrey Hepburn, is a chauffeur's daughter madly smitten with her dad's employer's second son, David Larrabee, a playboy and a good-for-nothing heir to Dad's Larrabee's millions. David, on his part, doesn't even notice Sabrina. Oh, poor dear Sabrina, who lives with her principled dad over the garage at the Larrabee's palatial Long Island estate. And her dad, Mr. Fairchild, played beautifully by John Williams, disapproves of her obsession because he knows nothing will come of it. He worries for his daughter, so he sends her away to a French cooking school in Paris, hoping that she will get over David. And this scene of her in a cooking school in Paris is a gem. Priceless, eh? Anyway, Sabrina finishes her course and returns home completely transformed into a chic French lady, but her feelings for David don't undergo any change, while David's feelings for her undergo a drastic change. Of course, Mama and Papa and older brother Larrabee are alarmed and appalled at this development because David is engaged to be married to an heiress with whose family the Larrabee family is planning a $20 million business merger. So Linus Larrabee, played splendidly by Humphrey Bogart, the older, responsible, workaholic brother, hatches a plan to nip Sabrina and David's romance in the bud. He begins to woo Sabrina himself. You can guess, of course, what happens after that, but even though the ending is predictable, the film is so beautifully directed and acted in that every bit of dialogue and every scene that unfolds is a joy to watch. This is absolutely one of my favorite scenes in the film, where a worried turned relieved Papa Fairchild is back to worrying all over again when he realizes that though Sabrina may be sort of over David, a new problem has arisen. Linus Larrabee is now courting his daughter. Check out this scene. What a beautiful scene that is, I say. With a waist like this, and a face that can launch a million ships and a smile that beats the moon in its radiance, Audrey Hepburn is just ethereally beautiful and makes such an ideal Sabrina. William Holden makes a nice flighty David, while Humphrey Bogart looks a little too much older than little Miss Hepburn. He's wonderful, no doubt, but in some scenes he looks like her dad. But what the heck, the chemistry still works and their lines are beautiful. I also love the supporting characters who comprise the housekeeping staff at the Larrabee estate. A little trivia here, Givenchy designed this outfit for Audrey Hepburn, and it was the start of a lifelong friendship between the two, as Givenchy designed her look for all her films thereafter. Remember the black gown she wears in the first scene at breakfast at Tiffany's? That's Givenchy. You can expect no less than great cinema from one of Hollywood's greatest directors, Billy Wilder, who made unforgettable films like Some Like It Hot and Sunset Boulevard, to name just a couple. Based on Samuel Taylor's stage play, Sabrina is a work of beauty. Now, in 1995, Sidney Pollack remade this classic with Julia Ormond, Harrison Ford and Greg Kinnear, but that is not a patch on the original. Old Hollywood, how glorious it was, with all its black and white films, which are far, far, far more colorful than anything that we see today. Sabrina gets all the stars in the sky. Do watch it. Last week's question was answered right and first by Mr. Philip Dennis Jayakumar. So we've sent you a DVD of Arsenic and Old Lace. It's a beautiful film. I hope you enjoy it. This week my question is, name another film in which Audrey Hepburn stars. That's simple. Let me repeat that. Name another film in which Audrey Hepburn stars. The first one to write in gets a big home DVD of Sabrina. You would like that, wouldn't you? So write in quickly to feedback@ndtv-hindu.com. I'll see you next week. Until then, be well and bye for now.